Then I always forget. So if you will do me a favor and just mute yourself, and I would so appreciate it. I'm Lori Cole, and I've been a coach for 7 years. Super excited. Dee asked me to sit in for her tonight. And I just want to go ahead and give you a heads up that we're going to be asking for a volunteer. Dun, dun, dun. So I would love for you to consider. We're going to be talking about the health assessment tonight. And I just want to do, if you think that maybe you're stuck and you aren't quite sure about what your why is, when I asked for a volunteer, it may be for you. So real excited about that. So I found this quote today I wanted to share with you, and then I'm going to read to you for just a second. I'm a teacher. You knew that was coming, right? It says, none of us is as smart as all of us. None of us is as smart as all of us. I can't say it, but you get it. We're better together. And so what I'm super excited about tonight is we're all going to be sharing things that we're good at with the health assessment. So one of the things I love is to read. And so this book has been amazing. It's called The Coaching Habit. If you haven't read it, it's fabulous. Say less, ask more, and change the way you lead forever. So I found this. I'm going to read to you for just a second about just kind of to get your thoughts spurred on about the health assessment. Matt May, the author of In Pursuit of Elegance and the Laws of Subtraction, tells a story of the first time he drove through the center of Paris. Swept into the traffic circle around the landmarks, he noticed this was not your typical rotary. With 12 streets feeding into the roundabout, the normal rules were reversed. Here, the incoming traffic had the right of way, while the traffic already in the circle had to wait its turn. Even though the system works, those crazy French, Matt's experience was one of white-knuckled panic as the cars seemed to come at him from all sides. Sometimes being on the receiving end of someone with a pocket full of questions can be like that moment of Parisian driving. Questions come hurling at you left and right. There's no time to answer any of them, and you are left feeling dazed and confused. Some call it drive-by questioning, and others, and rather than feeling like a supportive conversation, it has an unpleasant vibe of interrogation. So when we think about the health assessment, being a coach for 7 years, I started out and I would have those questions and I would just help my clients or potential clients with the questions. So what we want to do tonight is break down the health assessment, give you some new ideas of things that maybe we've tried and that have worked, or things that we've learned along the way, so that we don't make our clients or potential clients kind of feel like they're stuck in that roundabout. So as we focus on the health assessment, one of the things that we want to be sure to reiterate is it's about the client or potential client. It's really easy to say, oh my gosh, me too, instead of thinking about how we felt when we were sitting in those shoes. And instead of saying me too, we could say, gosh, I bet that feels frustrating. That must be really tiring. So we're in that space with them, but the health assessment is about them. So I want you to remember the confidence of the gift that we have in our hands. And as we walk into the health assessment, we're thinking about the ways that our clients or potential clients could benefit from being part of our program. And the last thing before we get started is I want you to remember the hope that you needed when you did your health assessment with your coach. What did you need to hear and think about how your coach visited with you and helped you, encourage you to your next journey? So tonight, one of the hardest things that I think is finding the why. Does anybody else agree with me? Digging in there. So I remember I told you I was going to ask for a volunteer. So if that is in your heart, Shauna. You're in safe hands, right? With Shauna. And Shauna is going to dig a little, and we're just going to do a little bit of role playing. So would anybody like to volunteer? Maybe you're thinking, I don't know my why. I need to revisit.
I could volunteer. Since I'm brand new to this call, so
Well, Robin, we're so glad that you're here. So Robin, this is my friend Shauna, and
Hi, Shauna.
yeah.
Robin.
And so I'm gonna mute myself, and we're just gonna do some role playing. All right, Shauna.
Okay, Robin, it's so nice to talk to you today. And I love that we were able to hop on a call, and I'd love to hear just a little bit about what you might be looking for.
Well, I'm looking for I really need that kind of one-on-one direction. I usually have a problem with sticking to something. So accountability is huge for me. So I don't know how, that's really the issue is, I can get a plan, I can stick to it for a little while, but then your mind goes elsewhere and you don't, it's easy to diverge if you don't have some kind of accountability.
Of course, I hear that. And so with all of that, is weight loss one of your goals?
Yes.
Good. Okay. And then if failure were not an option, tell me a little bit about what that goal looks like.
So mobility is or lack of mobility is my biggest fear. So I think that if there was no way to fail, that it would be freeing to be able to do a lot of things that I hadn't typically thought that I could do for, especially things like with weight restrictions. I'm always like looking at weight restrictions on things, and just kind of help to be more participatory in life in general. So I don't want to have to rely on somebody to, wheel me around or something like that. So I think it's really just being more active and participating in life instead of sitting on the sideline.
Yes, that's big, isn't it?
Yes, it's huge. In more ways than one. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Just a quick interruption here. I typically do not go to the second box right now. I go through the rest of the health assessment. I get to know who I'm talking to a little bit more, and I find out, what their goals are with their weight, and especially if it's somebody I've never talked to before. So Robin, would you mind just sharing with me what your weight loss goal is?
I haven't really put a number on my weight loss goal. It's more, I think, going to be like a feeling. I do know just for normal health reasons that I need to lose at least 50 pounds, 50 more pounds.
Okay. And so health is a big motivator for you.
Yes, I have history of, there's a history of diabetes in my family on both sides of the family. And I just really want to make sure that I've gotten really close a couple of times. I've been able to work my way out of pre-diabetic stage, but that's huge, especially in my family.
That must be scary for you.
Yeah, I don't like needles, and I would prefer to not have to deal with them on a daily basis.
I don't blame you, girl.
Or being tied to medication.
Yeah. Okay. I really appreciate your vulnerability. And so we're at the end of the health assessment, everybody, and this is typically how I move back to the why. So Robin, I thank you so much for being vulnerable today and sharing all of that with me. What I'd like to do right now is just kind of dream a little bit with you. So you talked earlier about, having a goal of better health and wanting to lose about 50 pounds is, kind of your starting place. So let's just look ahead a little bit, and you're down 50 pounds. You've reached that first milestone of a goal. And I want you to tell me what Robin looks like now. What do you see when you look in the mirror? What are you hoping to accomplish?
Wow. So I think that Robin would be somebody who is more active.
Mhm.
I'm hoping to, move that direction. I think that there are maybe a lot of things that I maybe wouldn't have hesitated to attempt. Those might be some things where I might be participating more and not as after you get over the initial fear of doing something new. But, I'd love to, I think that I'd be doing more 5Ks and a couple more half marathons. I haven't been able to do those for years.
Wow.
And it was something I don't necessarily enjoy the running, but I also had noticed that even like walking a 5K, it would get painful, like back pain and stuff. So I think that I'd be able to do a lot more of that. I like to travel, so I think I'd be comfortably sitting in that airplane seat instead of all mushed up in the center. And I'm hoping there would be like a lot, like a bigger sense of well-being, just knowing that I'm not tied down to any medications or, that I have to worry about my blood sugar every hour, however long you have to, do all those kinds of things. So really, I think activity would be probably the biggest change.
Mhm. Okay, I love that. A lot of goals surrounding, physical activity and your health, I'm hearing.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to get just a little bit more personal. I want to know who you're going to see when you look in the mirror. What do you think is going to change there?
Well, that's a really great question because I also have lost weight before, and I know that sometimes what I see is not what other people see, and really being able to focus on what I'm actually seeing and not some kind of dysmorphic person. But I'm hoping to see, well, a little bit, I would love to see changes physically. So, maybe a little bit more toned, or, the neck, the face slimming down. But beyond that, I think it's like seeing a more confident person. So outside just the physical attributes, and somebody who's proven now that they could do something that they thought that they were not able to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, that would be empowering.
Oh, yes. Tell me why that's important to you.
I think it's because there's a part of me that knows that I'm way more capable of what I give myself credit for. And I want to be that person that I envision, or that, I've thought about. It's like, oh, she could just go right out there. And, there's certain things that I have no problem with. I will go in and, I'll get up in front of people. I'll sing karaoke. I can give it up in front of people and make a speech or whatever. I obviously volunteered to do this part, but there's still some things that's like, yeah, but there's that little piece in the back. It's like, oh, are you really confident enough? That little nagging, that little self-doubt in there. And I'm hoping to squish her.
Oh, I love that. You can just totally rock squishing her, girl.
Yeah. I was like, oh, yeah. So
you guys, Shauna, that was brilliant. Did you guys write down some of those questions? So awesome. But also, Robin, you are so brave.
Oh, thanks. Well, I figure I need to just, like I said, jump in and do some of this stuff so I'm not as freaked out about my calls when I talk.
You sure did, right, you guys? So one of the things I loved is we could hear, she stumped Robin. Shauna stumped. Well, tell us what that would look like. How can we go, further and further? So Shauna, thank you so much. That was just brilliant. So now, one of the people that I wanted to connect this, she's great at this. So she's going to kind of connect what Shauna did. And notice how Shauna said, I get to know the person and then I go back to the why and I start connecting all that together. So you have the freedom to do that. But Lisa, with her newly, freshly broken arm, is gonna come off mute, and she is just gonna give us some great tips for finding the why and connecting what Shauna was doing with Robin there. All right, Lisa, you ready?
Thanks, Lori. Yeah, Shauna, great job. I love the way you did that. And so a couple things I want to point out about what I feel like Shauna really was leaning in and listening and letting Robin finish her thought. And that's important. Kind of like what Lori was saying at the beginning, don't kind of interject with our story. At some point you want to tell your story, maybe not. Maybe you're going to tell another client's story, but you don't know what you're going to tell them until you hear more about what the client wants. So that listening is really important. And asking those open-ended questions. You saw that we went from, yeah, weight loss is a part of my goal, all the way through to deeper and deeper and deeper and feeling empowered and squishing that person. That you're not going to get to that if you don't kind of keep asking those questions. And I think it's just really important and powerful. And one thing I want to say about the health assessment, how many of you noticed or listening to Shauna, and Shauna said, well, here, I don't go to number 2, I go to number 3. How many of you kind of went, oh, I go to number 2 or I go to number 4? Anybody kind of does it a little bit differently than Shauna did? It's okay, because I'm raising my hand. I do too. Here's the important thing about this, you guys. Optavia has given us a beautiful health assessment form, and we have the power to make it our own, to make it sound conversational, to make it sound like it's coming from us. So I ask almost all the questions in the health assessment, and I don't necessarily ask them in the same order that they're listed either, and sometimes I go in the order Shauna did, and sometimes, but I let the client lead it, and I form my questions off of what the client's saying. And I think it's important to reflect back and to give them the space like Shauna did. Shauna really, affirmed Robin and said, that's really great. I can see that. I can see that for you. And having the client dream is so important. And one of the tools that I love to use it's called the 7 levels of why, if you've heard of it. And it's really just asking the question. Shauna, you asked that question. Why is that important to you? And you can ask that question over and over and over again. I mean, you can change it. What makes that important to you? Why is that important to you? And really help the client dig deeper. Tell me more about why that's important to you, right? So you don't have to sort of say it robotically, why is that important to you? But you'd be surprised how deep clients will go when you just keep asking, what do you want to do? I want to lose weight. Why is that important to you? I just did a health assessment the other night. Well, I want to feel better. Well, what does feeling better mean to you? Well, I want to breathe better. Okay, well, what makes that important to you? I just want to feel comfortable in my skin. And I said, what would be different for you when you feel better and you breathe better and you're more comfortable in your skin? And this client said, I could move, I could bend, I could run upstairs. And so I said, sounds like you're looking for freedom of movement. And she said, yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. And all I kept saying was, why is that important to you? So I've got the 7 levels of whys on a video, and I'm putting it in the chat for all of you to have a look at. But it's really that simple. Just keep asking, why is that important to you? And it's amazing what our clients come out with. I've had a lot of people at the end of a health assessment say, well, that went longer than I thought, or I told you way more than I thought I was going to. But they're connecting with a part of themselves that they've not been able to. And it can happen pretty quickly when you invite it in and you make that space safe for them.
That was so good. Thank you, Lisa. And thank you for sharing that. Great. It's in the chat, the video there. So good. Thank you so much. So once we move past the why, you've kind of heard different perspectives on how to do that and how to go deeper. And you're sitting with the person, you're intrinsically validating them. I've actually had people cry on a health assessment before, and you're just there and they automatically feel heard. They feel seen. They're allowed to dream. And a lot of times they've lost that somewhere along the way. So now we're going to move into a different part of the health assessment. We're going to move into kind of the presenting of the 4 components along with asking for the commitment, because we know that we're leaning into the 4 components, but we also need them to, for lack of a better word, to commit to that. So Debbie is going to come off mute here, and she's going to tell us how she does that part.
Hey y'all, can everybody hear me okay? Great. I love learning from you guys every single week. It's just amazing. I love this part of it because as a nurse, I get to kind of share why, what our program, how our program is different, So I'll start by saying this, we have 4 components, and one component, or first of all, say, this is kind of like going on a journey. And if we're choosing a vehicle for that journey, the more stability you have in our vehicle, the better it is. So if we started out in your, and one component is your personal health coach, I'll just invite that they've already made that decision. Like, I'm going to be your personal health coach, and I'm one part of that. And I also fortunate to describe to them how I support them in the first week as their body's making changes, and also, going forward after that first week. A second component, and maybe my favorite, is the life book and the Habit to Health book, because I love that because it's written by a physician, comes from a lot of medical science, and it really helps us get past just what we eat, but what we think about. And we all know that what we think about becomes our actions and becomes our behaviors. So I love it. And I tell them, and as we go through each week, I'm gonna point you through to certain parts of those books. But it's a very important part of my follow-up or the weekly calls, is to ask them where they are in their life book. That tells me that they're engaging in it. And of course, I tell them what an amazing community this is, because life changes so much easier and better when we have friends around us that believe in us and encourage us and affirm us. And I tell them about our Facebook group, how wonderful it is to be able to go in there and ask questions and put in the search bar any question or topic that they have on their heart, and also to participate in our weekly calls. And we have options on Monday night at 8 and Tuesday night at 8. And that's really almost, I even structure some of my follow-up calls around those 2 calls that I can say, okay, we're going to meet at 7:30. And then, or 8 or 8:30 or something like that, and say, now you can just jump right over to that call and be part of our bigger community and learn from other people like myself and like yourself as a client. And then I say, like the 4th wheel of that car is gonna be our nutrition program, and we have a delicious feelings that really help us to learn how to help our body feel better and to heal, and just to allow some of that inflammation to go away. And we're going to learn also how to use whole food and portion sizes, and really learn how food serves our body well. We talk about, we're going to eat 6 times a day, and one of those times is our lean and green meal. And I love it if they are willing to explore splitting that lean and green into adding it to another fueling type. And I talk about how we can consider our fueling small meals, and then maybe borrow some protein or something or vegetables into another meal. And then I really like to kind of end and pull them into and say, now we've got wheels on the car. We have a very stable vehicle. We're going on a journey. But the one thing that's missing is we need a driver. And are you ready to be the driver in your own journey? I want to sit in the passenger seat with you, but I would love it if you're ready to drive, and are you ready to go? So that's how I wrap it. I love it. I love using imagery and words along the way, but also allowing them to see themselves sitting in that car and planning for a journey.
Isn't that great, you guys? What a great illustration. Thank you so much, Debbie. And a lot of times you can even be a little more, you can say, I'd like you to commit to a weekly phone call. I'd like you to commit to spending, 5 minutes once a week, then move to 2 times a week, whatever it takes. Like for me, I'm a reader, so 5 minutes a day is not a thing. But if someone doesn't like to read, then you just start slowly. So you ask them to commit to the things that we know are more than just what you eat. So there's a bravery moment there when we're doing the ask. So then you get to the end of the health assessment, and the next part is the close. Like, how do we end? Okay, we found the why, we've done a wonderful presentation about what we have to offer. And then you're like, what do I do here? What do I do if they say, I just want to talk to my husband, or do you have anything to send to me, or what do we do? So I have got Stacy is going to come off mute and tell us how she handles all of those tricky situations.
Thank you, Lori. And it's so interesting because when I think about the close piece of our health assessment, it's very much what's already been shared. I've heard and learned, when I started this journey, of the 3 R's, right? So those 3 R's are repeating, right? So we're at the end of the health assessment, we're going to repeat their goals. We will then rephrase them, weaving in where our program will support their goals. So actually reciting it back, right? So you've gotten the commitment that, yes, these are their goals. You can rephrase them so that the stickiness and the attachment to what our program offers, whether it's community, if they're feeling lonely, or if it's, more of the nutrition piece, whatever it may be, reconnecting it with that. And then the 3rd R is, are you ready? And I think that's really important. You've heard a little bit, just about the importance of just listening. And I think one of the things I love to do before any health assessment is I just assume this person's going to commit at the end. I'm assuming at the end of that call, they're going to say, yeah, I'm ready. Sometimes they do, not all the time. I think we've all been there a few times when we have those excuses or different things. And 9 times out of 10, when you listen to exactly, Lori, like you said, oh, I need to ask my husband, or do you have more information that you can share? It typically is anchored somewhere in fear. And so I think if we can realize that and then ask those really great questions, I think one of the great questions when someone says, well, I need to check with my spouse, so my husband or my wife, the response can be, well, what do you think they're going to say? Right? And then you can go back to the rephrasing. Well, this is what you said about your goals. And so I think it'd be really important. I think they'll support you. But then certainly we're going to have those that are just simply not going to be ready. And so then that's when you say, and maybe you're already friends on Facebook, maybe not, but you can say, hey, are you on Facebook? Would you mind? I'm going to send you a friend request, and I'm going to drop you into our private Facebook group. I want you to look around in there. Commit to me, if you would, that you jump on there and just spend a couple of minutes in the next day, and I'll follow up with you tomorrow afternoon and see what you think. So then you can just keep that close and keep it going and keeping it fresh. So that's kind of a little bit of what I do, and just, help them dream at the end around how to connect.
That's awesome. The 3 R's, repeat, rephrase, and are you ready? I love that. I've never heard that. So great. Also, don't forget to invite them to your newsletter with your email. So great. I love the link. I love the language too. That's awesome, Stacy. Thank you. So now we've kind of gone through the health assessment. We've talked about the more tricky components so that we know we have an arsenal. We've got tools in our toolbox. So I want you to think about what is hard for you. An example, Shauna and I were just talking about this today. When Shauna and I started coaching, I was brand new on program myself, and Shauna's one of my best friends. So I stepped in to coach, and she became my client. And I remember we would practice, and don't do this, by the way, but we would say at the end, now I know it's expensive, but like we literally said that, like it's a miracle. 7 years later, we're still here, right? So you know what that showed was that was uncomfortable. The cost was uncomfortable for me back then, but we all have our things. What's uncomfortable to you? Is it the cost? Is it are you nervous about coaching? Are you nervous about asking them to coach? Because Shauna was like, I'll come on the program, but don't you dare ask me to coach. And I was nervous about that, Are you nervous about how to close it up? How do we end? What if they say no? And some people are going to, they're just not ready yet. So I want you to think about what you're most uncomfortable about And I challenge you to go ahead and shoot a text to your mentor coach or your mentor coaches and say, I want to talk about this particular part of the health assessment this week before we forget and before we move past it. And before your next health assessment, let's go ahead and find your voice and your comfort, and so that you can move forward. Because if we bring our energy, we're holding back, we believe something about the program, we lean into a health assessment, and we're like, they can't afford it, right? Then that energy shows up. So it's really important that we go ahead and plan and prepare with our mentor coaches about how to overcome the obstacles that we carry. So I challenge you to make that appointment this week and to start talking through that. The other thing I love to do is I love to share books. So I shared a little bit from you, The Coaching Habit, one of my favorite coaching books. So great for, and we can put all this in the chat. The other one I really like is Change Your Questions, Change Your Life. It's another really good one. And then I just love the story of this one. It's called Chasing Cupcakes. So some really good ideas about, and the other one I'm reading right now is The Heart of a Leader, because that's what we are in our businesses. That's what we are to our clients. That's what we are to our coaches. We're leaders. And this talks about just having a heart to lead others well. So if you have any awesome books that you love, I would invite you to put those in the chat so we can all share and grow in our personal growth. So I thank you for letting me host you guys tonight. Was this call, you guys, I love it. I just sat here and took a whole page of notes. Did you too? But will you give the speakers, just drop them a comment in the chat? I thought it was awesome. Thank you so much. You guys, Stacy, Shauna, Deb, Lisa, thank you so much. Robin, our brave new coach, you're a rock star. Thank you. But you guys, thanks for being here tonight. We are going to put this recording. I did record it. Yay. Dee's going to be proud. And it will be on our coaches page. And I hope you guys have a great evening. Thanks for being here. Bye.